All right, well, hello everyone, and welcome to our client panel session, Trickster Tenants, How to Spot and Stop Them. My name is Dustin Daly, Associate Director at Yardi, and I'll be moderating our panel today. Join with me is Catherine Carroll from Equistar Property Management out of Batesburg, South Carolina, and Josh Raxlin from SoCan Property Management out of Toronto, Canada. Our industry has been seeing that post-COVID, there's been a sharp spike in rental application fraud across the board. A recent NMHC survey found that last year, 93% of property managers experienced fraud over the last 12 months. The Yardi Screening Works Pro team found that on average, 1 to 4% of applicants are providing fraudulent identification, and 4 to 10% of applicants are providing fraudulent proof of income documents. This can lead to an increase in unqualified residents, bad debt, and ultimately evictions. So we've asked Catherine and Josh to help share what trends they're seeing in their markets and to learn what they're doing to help prevent applicant fraud. So Catherine, Josh, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Catherine, we'll start with you. Could you share a bit about your experience in the industry and provide a brief background of your role at Equistar Property Management?
Sure. My official title here is the COO. I've been in real estate for 25 years now, in property management specifically for about 17, I guess, of those years. So a pretty long time. I actually work for an asset management company, and our property management division is one division within that asset management company. And I direct that department. So we are not multifamily. We are single family, and we're single family homes actually all over the state of South Carolina. We're very geographically spread out in the state, but specific to South Carolina. So we have about, now we're going on close to 200 properties that we manage within the state, and I act as the property manager in charge.
Great. Well, thanks, Catherine, and thank you for being here. Josh, do you mind introducing yourself and your role at SoCan Property Management?
Yeah, sure. I'm one of the co-owners at SoCan Property Management here in Toronto. It's snowing today in Toronto,
Wow.
so just we still had to salt the roads here in early April. And our company manages smaller multifamily, commercial, industrial assets. We have about 500 units under management, and we manage most of sort of those smaller multifamily assets and smaller commercial and industrial.
Great. Well, thank you, Josh. And we'll stay with you for our first topic here. Are you among the 93% of property managers who have encountered applicant fraud? And if so, could you share any stories or cautionary tales?
Yeah, certainly we come across all the time, specifically in multifamily or the residential side of things. Recent story, there's a lot that come to mind. Recently, we had these applicants that looked great on paper, great credit, and great jobs at these companies with great salaries, pay stubs, employment letters. The unfortunate thing was I'd never heard of these companies. So you do a simple Google search, LinkedIn, you search, and they have no online presence at all. Both of these applicants have jobs at places that you've never heard of, you can't even find online, but you always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I make the reference calls and I call the employer. And it's about 10 in the morning and I call one of the employers. It sounds like he just woke up. And I said, well, sir, you've given an employment letter for Jane Smith and I can't find your website. Would you happen to have one that I could take a look at? Oh, yeah, you know what? Give me a few minutes. I'll send you our website. So about 2 hours later, I got a text from this individual with the website to his company. And all things considered, it was a decent looking website. A lot of the text looked very stock chat GPT, which is fine. We're in the AI era. But all of these things, you get that gut feeling that something's off. I took a look at the domain and when it was registered, and it was registered that day. So that individual made a fake website for seemingly his friend or someone he knew. The job was fake. And when I went back to these people, I said, oh, well, the website was built today. Like, do you have any explanation? oh, we'll call you back. They ghost, they run away, and they go commit their fraud at the next property. So
Wow.
that was an interesting one. I've never seen somebody so dedicated to helping their friend that they got out of bed at 10 o'clock and spent the next 2 hours making a fake site. But yeah, this that was an interesting one.
That's very interesting. That's a great length to go for a single application, right?
Yeah.
That's a very good
We can
catch
only
too.
assume the credit was fake. I mean,
Yeah.
we would have run their credit ourselves through Equifax or through Yardi screening, but we didn't get to that point. They had given us these credit reports. They looked legit, and I'm sure if we had run them, they would have come back with a drastically different number.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Thanks for sharing, Josh. Catherine, any cautionary tales from you or from, your peers in the industry?
Without question. I'm Josh and we operate in two such different cultures within what we do. What we do is exactly the same, but it's just so very different. We have a large company, but we service a very rural area. So, people here just stopped doing contracts on the bed of trucks probably 7 years ago. So, the culture here, people aren't used to people digging into their stuff. They don't like it. They're not used to it. And it's become a tool for those people that know what they're doing. I'm very much a proponent of, I don't, the people that are committing fraud today are doing it for various different reasons. I can empathize. It is a tough economy right now, no matter whether you're in Canada, I would assume, Josh, or the States. Especially the States as of late, it's just tough. We don't even know how to buy eggs right now. So, when you're trying to buy eggs and then you're also looking for a home, I think stress behavior comes out and anybody's capable of anything giving the right stressors. So that being said, we have some pretty creative people. Most recently, I had a gentleman who applied. He applied online. We use Yardi as our application tool and source, which works great for us. But I get a copy of it and I'm looking at his application and he said that he worked. There's one huge employer here within 30 miles of where we are. And he said he'd worked there for the last 5 years and was still employed there. And I scratched my head a little bit and I called him. I said, "Hey, you still work there, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "As of right now, you have a job, correct?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I've got a letter. I can give it to you on letterhead." I said, "Why don't you go ahead and do that?" So he sends it to me. He emails me a letter and I'm like, "Okay, well," I said, "When was the last time you reported for work?" "Well, just yesterday, and I'm going in this morning." And I was like, you know, that plant burnt down 2.5 weeks ago. Nobody's working there right now,
Wow.
period. So, and click. That's how that went. Click. Just like Josh said, ghosting. So, super creative. We just tend to be a little bit more rural. And so, I probably don't see the advancement within the fraud that other people may see. But that's the hard part for us because it's very personal here. And, when someone says they are who they are, they expect you to believe it. And so, yeah, and we are definitely seeing an increase. I mean, I would say within our office, 30%. We are giving 30% more energy to having to overcome and guess and wonder and double check and triple check than we ever have been before.
Wow. That's an alarming, stat of, how much this is increasing for you. But also a really, really good point about, the motivations with the people who are stressed to ultimately commit fraud, right? It's not all 100% bad actors and professional, bad tenants, right? Sometimes it's people that are in a bind, still causing them to commit fraud. So Catherine, what procedures and technology are you using today to screen your applicants and prevent applicant fraud? And have any of these measures led to any noticeable improvements?
Yeah, sure. There's different metrics for improvement, right? So, and some of them are subjective and some of them are objective. We use Yardi exclusively for our tools right now. I'm not saying that to promote Yardi because I'm on a panel. It's just what we do, and it has made a difference. So, in the States, the average rate of burnout for a property manager is 19.2 months. So that's a short window for someone to operate within a career. And I believe fully that part of that is this aspect of it. So, it's stressful to have to to go through an eviction. It's all of that stressful. And so for me, ID Verify, I was so grateful when that came out. That's such a difficult thing, because we're balancing fair housing as well, right? And I believe in fair housing and I live by fair housing. I don't just do it. But balancing fair housing and then also verification of income when you're doing it without an AI source or some source of technology becomes extremely hard, and a very big balance. Having the ID Verify for me and for the staff especially has been great. It just alleviates that. So that has helped tremendously. And then, the screening tool through Yardi is great. For us, our state takes a little bit longer to put things on record, so evictions don't go immediately on record. Yardi is real time, but they can only search what's on record. Yes. It just, I still have to search the court system. We have that ability. So we have the ability to go into sccourts.org and I can search for evictions there. So I do use that as a backup tool. But I will say, as far as how it's helped, those are the metrics. My staff burnout's less. My staff burnout's less. Like that for me, that's paramount. It's just less. They're having to deal with less stress, less conflict and all of that, because not everybody's wired for that. But where I see it the most is in evictions and when we have to go. The judges today for us in our area are very, very, for the first time, asking for the documentation. Were you income verified? Did you let this person in this property without income verification? Did you do a background check? Did you verify that, income? And so it's the first time we've seen magistrate cases that have been typically very black and white in nature, very straightforward. They're asking for documentation they haven't before. This is having this and having it be a third party that's done it is just makes a world of difference for that as well.
Yeah, very insightful. Thanks for sharing, Catherine. Josh, how about you? What tools and procedures are you taking to mitigate fraud?
In terms of tools, we use the Yardi resident screening tool for most of our for applicants. Sometimes they send us an Equifax credit report and they're really adamant that we don't run their credit. They don't want the soft check. But for the most part, we use Yardi resident screening. In terms of other tools, mentioning the courts here, it's difficult to search court records for landlord tenant board filings. So now recently, some people have gotten together and built a tool. It's called Open Room. It's probably only applicable to Canadian clients, but now all these landlords are adding the tenant sort of hearings and court rulings into a database. So now I can search by tenant name. And so we're searching on there to make sure that, our prospective tenants don't have judgments against them or anything of that nature. We use the old-fashioned social media search just to sort of check, see who people are. We can find out. A Google search of everybody also goes a long way. And then in terms of procedures, we now require that basically a HR department send us an email in writing to verify that someone's employed where they are from a corporate email. Employment letters are being, manufactured too frequently that we basically need somebody at the corporate office to verify that somebody works where they say they work before we move forward with an applicant. Landlord, we need to speak with a previous landlord. We're checking records to ensure that someone, if they say they used to live at 123 Elm Street, they did in fact used to live there. We verify that their landlord was in fact, John Smith, and we make sure we've spoken with John Smith to verify their. Here in Ontario, like having a non-paying tenant can cost you 9 or 10 months of waiting. So we'd rather go that extra mile to screen someone out than wait 9 months for them to pay. So,
wow, 9 months.
Yeah, it was an average of 9 to 10 months. They've shortened it up here, but it got like pretty much to a year during COVID that a tenant could stop paying and you could not even get them out basically a minimum of 12 months before you see an eviction at minimum. Wow. Now it's probably a little quicker.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you've definitely adopted a solid set of tools and procedures to help mitigate that as much as possible. So thanks for sharing that. And Josh, what tips would you offer to other companies who are watching this that might be considering implementing, new screening or fraud detection tools?
I'd say, look, use everything at your disposal. And I mean, for us, like the biggest thing our prospective clients tell us is like, how do you screen tenants? It's the first thing our multi-family prospective clients like now having that good process setting us apart from our competition. And it's actually become you know, a marketing feature that, we are really good at that tenant screening. And so use every tool at your disposal, and trust your gut. And there's that factor that sometimes outside leasing agents, sometimes we put things on realtor.com or realtor.ca and we have outside realtors bringing us tenants. We want to try and meet or have one of our staff members have that gut check for every tenant. So some of our worst cases of tenants have been like another broker brought them. Oh, we didn't get a chance to meet them. Oh, Josh, they're great people. You're going to love them. And because we didn't meet them, we didn't have that gut check. So I think that gut check and feeling about people is really important too. It's that intangible thing. It can't be screened online, but you get a sense of people. So I guess use every technology, use the gut check, and really form a good process because people care about it, at least in our market here.
I think that's very well said. Catherine, anything to add there? Any advice for companies looking to adopt new technology?
I don't know that there's much to add. That was a great thing. Josh, that was awesome. Thank you. For sure. But yeah, I would just say spend the money. That's the hardest part when you're balancing things. You're building a business. Obviously, Josh has done that. And spend the money. It's so hard. And and it is a cost. It's a cost of doing business. But the owner of the Pistons once said, if you're not in front of the IRS or in court, you're not doing business. Well, I don't want to be in front of either one of those people. So yeah, I'm good. I'll spend the money now. Let's just spend it. So I just think that, you know, it's expensive. Like Josh said, for them, we are probably 3 months without rent typically when we have to go through an eviction process, but just spend the money and investigate and make sure, the technology world right now is changing so rapidly, and you've got to stay on top of what's available to you for tools as well. I recently learned today there was a tool available to me that I didn't even know about, and just by happen chance. So just make sure you're continuing to just carve out the little bit of time during the day to have a conversation with your Yardi person. Or, make sure that you're talking to someone from Canada who's doing things completely different than you. Just stay connected to your peers. And then when you find something that solves a need, just spend the money. Staff turnover is expensive. Going to court for evictions is expensive. Lawsuits are expensive. Tenants sitting in properties are expensive. So, I would just say to echo everything that Josh said and then just spend the money.
Great. I think that's great advice. Yeah. Catherine, we'll stay with you. Besides, we've been talking about identity and income applicant fraud, but are there any other types of fraud that you're seeing in property management we should
You
also
know,
be aware
that's,
of?
you know, that's interesting that you say that. I feel like, it's a bifold thing. So we're approaching and we're talking today about tenant fraud. But the tenants are just as scared of us right now too. So for me, am I seeing other fraud? I'm aware of other fraud in that there are bad actors posing as property managers out there who are also, scamming people. And so, I find balancing, I've got to work with the tenant to make sure who they are is who they are, but they're also trying to prove who I am is who I am. So for me, I think, the fact that we use Yardi, it's a bigger system. Again, not trying to just plug Yardi, but that's just who we use. Just having those bigger people and systems behind us, it's really helpful to me to prove to tenants that I am who I am. So that fraud, we battle that every day. I get calls all the time. We're not located in an apartment building where my tenants can come see my face. We
Yeah.
may be 3 hours away. And they're like, is it really you? Like, how do I prove that? So I just think on the converse side of the wheel, having a bigger system and those systems in places helps with that, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that's where you're going, but that's one thing I have noticed.
That's a very good point. It can happen both ways, right? And there's been devastating stories of, a listing that's too good to be true, and then an applicant loses their deposit and first month's rent due to a scam. So I think it's good to empathize that fraud is happening both ways at an increasingly rate here. Josh, do you see this in Canada as well?
Yeah, it's like you hear about it on the news now and then, like a Craigslist or some ad, some renter went and thought they were dealing with the landlord, gave a deposit, and then they showed up and someone's like, "What are you doing here?"
Okay.
Uh, I would say that it's not to the point where people are wondering if we're actually the landlord, but I guess like Captain said, in most cases, they have a really nice property site they're going to for us that Yardy's built, and they're meeting a professional property manager on site. They see we have the key. We don't deal with people remotely like that, but you definitely hear about it.
Well, great points, Josh. Josh, just to close this out, do you have any final advice for our audience today? Could be related to fraud prevention, tenant screening, or general leasing practices for folks that are looking to improve these items?
Um, no, just be really diligent and have a strong leasing process that you share throughout your organization. Always follow your gut on tenants, and no, that's and use Yardi resident screening.
Appreciate the plug, Josh. Yeah, and thanks for the good insight today. Catherine, any parting advice for your peers who are up against this issue?
Take a breath. It feels very intimidating sometimes, and it's really hard when you've got someone on the other end of the phone that is just as adamant that they are somebody as you are sure they're not. So just, take a breath, stay in communication with the people, have some headphones in the office, and when things get too much, just put some white noise on and turn your light off and lay on your floor if you have one. So, I mean, because we need that every once in a while. But other than that, no, Dustin, you've done such a great job, introducing this and talking through it. I just think you've covered just about everything. So thank you.
Right. Well, yeah, Catherine, Josh, thank you so much for your insight on this topic today. It's really helpful you've each shared your stories and methods for detecting and preventing fraud. It's going to give our audience a lot to think about when it comes to their own screening workflows. And now to add my plug, for those out there looking to improve their system, with Yardi Screening Works Pro, the big advantage is we can help, with your leasing process online with integrated screening and fraud prevention tools. So beyond the traditional tools that we've offered for many years, like credit and criminal reports, we also have fraud detection tools that can be used all together or a la carte, and these do vary by country or by state. So feel free to connect with your Yardi representative. But just really briefly, we do have tools for ID verification, and this would be where applicants can take photos on the front and back of their driver's license or passport. They take a selfie. It uses biometric data to authenticate the ID to prove the applicants are who they say they are. We have tools for income verification, and this would use tools like open banking that would allow applicants to securely log into their bank or payroll account to quickly verify their bank statements or payroll data. And sometimes that can show a better holistic view of total income, especially for the increasing amount of gig economy workers out there that might not show everything on a pay stub. And then we have document authentication. Yardi partners with a leader in this space, a company called Snapped, who uses AI to instantly detect fraudulent documents such as pay stubs or bank statements with a very high accuracy rate. So if you're interested in any of these tools, feel free to reach out to your Yardi representative. And hopefully today's session's been helpful to raise awareness of this increasing issue in our industry. And would like to thank Josh and Catherine again for their insight today. And would also like to open it up to the viewers on the session to comment their own experience with applicant fraud. What are you seeing in your market, and what strategies are you all using to mitigate fraud? And with that, I want to thank you all again and hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Take care.